Gentlelady yields back. Now, pursuant to notice, I now call up the Task Force to Investigate Terrorism Financing Resolution of 2015. The clerk will report the resolution.
Resolution establishing the House Committee on Financial Services Task Force to investigate terrorism financing. Resolved, Section 1, short
Without
title.
objection, the resolution is considered read and open to amendment at any point. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Fitzpatrick, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the United States pushes back against the tide of terror and extremism, it must do so with every tool available, including using every means at our disposal to choke off their sources of funding. Over the course of the next 6 months, the Task Force to Investigate Terrorism Financing will work to fully review the rules and regulations of the United States government, what it has in place, determine whether they are effective or if modifications are necessary. At the end of the 6 months, we will report back to this committee with our findings and highlight potential areas of concern with existing policy. As legislators entrusted with protecting the American people, we cannot sit back and wait for terror to come to us. While our military engages with terrorists on the battlefield and law enforcement works to protect our homeland, Congress needs to make sure that we understand the nature of the threat and how we can strike our enemy by every means. What we can do is block access to the global financial system and take down the funding networks that groups like ISIS use to finance their operations. It is my hope that this new task force will encourage and produce true bipartisan measures to devastate and disrupt the ability of terror groups of all sizes to finance and fund their deadly ideologies. Having worked with experts both here and abroad on this topic, I know that we can find real bipartisan solutions to expand and strengthen federal policies, as well as to set an example internationally. I look forward to working with Mr. Pittenger and Mr. Lynch and my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to achieve just that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, also Ranking Members Waters, for setting up this task force on terrorist financing. I think that detecting and disrupting the flow of funding to terrorist groups is critical in our fight against terrorism. While it's proven to be difficult work, I think it's also worthwhile. I'm honored by the committee's recommendation to serve as the Democratic lead on this new bipartisan task force, and I know that membership on this task force was oversubscribed. We had more than the number of seats that were allocated on both sides. So I think there's a real spirit of bipartisanship, and I look forward to working with the Chairman Fitzpatrick and also Vice Chairman Pittenger to work on this issue. We all know very well the risk presented by terrorist organizations, including the Islamic State in Iraq and Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab in Somalia. The rise of the Islamic State in particular and the organization's ability to finance an extensive enterprise requires us to continually meet new challenges in this critical counterterrorism area. For example, earlier this week, the Wall Street Journal reported that, this is a quote, the Islamic State militants are skimming tens of millions of dollars a month from the salaries paid to Iraqi government employees in occupied areas such as Mosul. That's American tax dollars in some respects. The U.S. provides Iraq with hundreds of millions of dollars in assistance each year, with some of those funds earmarked for local security forces, the very forces that are having their salaries co-opted. And also we have considerable resources dedicated to counterterrorism operations in Iraq and eastern Syria. In debating how to proceed, U.S. officials have weighed two bad options. If they cut off the funding to the legitimate Iraqi security forces, then that operation goes down. Yet if we continue to deliver the resources in that manner, we know that in some cases those resources are being siphoned off by ISIL and other groups for malignant purposes. So we've got to, I think it would be a great opportunity for this committee to intervene not only there but also in parts of Syria and also Somalia, where we've seen a similar problem where remittances that have been dedicated to Somalia have been in some cases diverted to Al-Shabaab. So there's a couple of ways we can work. One is with the host governments and trying to strengthen their anti-money laundering statutes, but also I think that we can tighten up the operations that we have right now, dedicating U.S. taxpayer dollars that might be inadvertently siphoned off for terrorism purposes. So I'm looking forward. I'm really happy to be working on this with Chairman Fitzpatrick and Mr. Pittenger and all the other members who have agreed to serve in this task force. So with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes himself for 5 minutes, although I assure all members it will not be 5 minutes. I want to thank the gentleman from Pennsylvania. I want to thank the gentleman from Massachusetts for agreeing to take on this very vital work of the committee. In fact, I can really think of no other work that is as critical as the work of this terrorist financing task force. I want to thank the ranking member for her cooperation, and indeed it proves once again that partisanship ends at the water's edge. We honor that tradition here. I look forward to the work of the task force, and again I thank all the members who have agreed to serve, and I certainly thank those who will be serving in leadership roles on this task force. I yield back. Who seeks recognition?